The retirement of Eagles legend Jason Kelce is going to be a difficult void to replace. Jason Kelce, the best center of this generation, the best center in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles organization, and he goes down as one of the best players at his position in the history of football. A funny story and an interesting story about his replacement, Cam Jurgens, who the Eagles drafted a couple of years ago out of Nebraska in the second round. Howie Roseman had an idea that Jason Kelce was nearing the end of his playing career, and Kelce even talked about it in that documentary that was released last year, that he had been year to year as to whether or not he was going to continue his NFL career for a couple of years. And he helped handpick his replacement in Cam Jurgens. In the pre-draft process, he helped Howie Roseman scout Jurgens, do some insight on Jurgens, and they came to an agreement that Kelce and Roseman really liked Jurgens to take over for Kelce as this team center whenever Kelce decided to call it quits. And obviously he did that this offseason after an illustrious career. And Pro Football Focus thinks that Cam Jurgens can really break out here in 2024. They listed him as one of 5 offensive linemen positioned for a breakout in 2024. Why I'm confident that he can fill in for Jason Kelce. I'm not going to say fill the shoes of him, because Kelce, even last year, even though he was a little bit older, longer in the tooth, and did retire, best center in football. Just a perennial All-Pro who was excellent, who graded out very, very well. He was playing at an elite level. But Jurgens, when you scout him, has very similar traits to Jason Kelce. Speed, agility, twitch, athleticism, the ability to get to that second level on the pull blocks, very similar body types. And for that body type, for two centers who are a little bit light, hovering around 300 pounds, they both have really good power. And I think that Jurgens is going to be able to step in with Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in football, and be able to play some pretty good football here in handing the football and snapping the football to Jalen Hurts. And when I saw Cam Jurgens in the preseason 2 years ago as a rookie, coming in for Jason Kelce, and I saw how comfortable he looked at the center position, snapping the football, calling out plays, calling out reads, calling out defensive tendencies, getting out in space on those pull blocks, he looked really, really comfortable. Now, last year, as we know, he was penciled in at right guard because the Eagles were so high on the player. They wanted to give him playing time, and Kelce had run it back for another season. And it was an up and down year for Jurgens. There's no doubt about it. He graded out just okay playing a new position. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 63, a pass blocking grade of 55, run blocking grade of 62.9. But this is what I look at for Jurgens and why I'm confident in him moving forward. He's a smart player. He's a disciplined player. The ability is there. And now that he goes back to his normal position, I think that he can play well. No penalties, no sacks allowed, only 2 hits allowed. 22 pressures is a pretty big number, but the no penalties, no sacks, and 2 hits on 654 snaps, that's pretty damn good right there. And there is room for improvement for him, unquestionably. And I think that Jeff Stoutland can help him take that next leap going into year 3, but he also played out of position. So it's difficult to gauge how much he struggled because some of that was due to him being in a new spot. Here's what Pro Football Focus had to say about Jurgens. Smart teams draft for the future rather than immediate needs. The Eagles drafted center Cam Jurgens in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft to be an heir in waiting to future Hall of Famer center Jason Kelce. Kelce retired this offseason, paving the way for Jurgens to finally assume the position he is best at. Including the playoffs, Jurgens played over 700 snaps for the Eagles at right guard last year, but at a little over 300 pounds, he was always projected to play center at the next level. At guard, he was a solid run blocker with some very iffy games pass blocking, but at center, he will have regular help on either side of him in that regard, and that run blocking prowess will only be emphasized. He was always seen as Kelce's natural successor inside, and 2024 is the first year that he will have that opportunity. I'm a huge Jason Kelce fan. I bought his Kelly Green jersey last year. There's nothing more that I want than to shotgun a beer with Kelce, the way that he played, what he exuded. He was the epitome of what an Eagles player should be. Tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar, loves ball, great leader. but I'm kind of excited to usher in this new era post Jason Kelce and post Fletcher Cox, and Jurgens hopefully is going to be a part of that. And I thought the Pro Football Focus made some fair points there on the fit at right guard. At times, Cam Jurgens looked a little bit out of sorts. In sticking with the Eagles' offensive line, PFF also ranked all 32 offensive line units in the NFL, and the Birds, even without Kelce, checking in as the second best O-line going into 2024. At number 1, the Detroit Lions, who are returning a really good offensive line from a year ago when they made that run to the NFC Championship game. That's a really good line. They have awesome trench play. So they're atop this list. Philadelphia at number 2, Indianapolis Colts at number 3. I think that's a sneaky team, by the way, going into 2024 if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy. Really liked what Shane Steichen did last year with Indy and Gardner Minshew. The Cleveland Browns at number 4. And then the New York Jets at 5. They haven't been top 5, top 10 on any list when talking about an offensive line unit in quite some time, but they drafted Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. They brought in Morgan Moses, and they've rebuilt that offensive line to a large degree. Here's next what PFF had to say about the entirety of the Eagles' offensive line. While the Birds fielded the NFL's best O-line over the past couple of years, there are questions about the unit's cohesiveness following center Jason Kelce's retirement. Cam Jurgens, Kelce's replacement, has played only 45 NFL snaps at center so far. He is being replaced at right guard by Tyler Steen, who played just 71 snaps on offense as a rookie and was not overly impressive. And Steen was not. And he's going to have the opportunity to claim this role at right guard. I don't think it's a guarantee that he's going to claim that job. I think Mekhi Becton, as the Eagles test and experiment with him there at a new position, doesn't have an opportunity to unseat Steen. Steen played very sparingly at guard last year, and he really struggled. While at Vanderbilt and Alabama, he was only a left tackle. You would think that with that athleticism to be able to play on the outside, he'd be able to slide inside and hold his own. Last year, in a small sample size, he did not. I'm interested to see how he performs with another year under his belt in training camp, in the preseason. That's a position to watch. You want to see how Cam Jurgens can adapt in filling in for the legend in Kelce, but 3/5 of this offensive line straight up elite with Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, and Lane Johnson. And going into the offseason, I thought offensive line depth was a pretty big issue. Fred Johnson, not a bad left tackle. Mekhi Becton, a swing tackle who the Eagles are trying to maybe mold into a guard as well. I'm always a big advocate for positional versatility. The Birds drafted Trevor Keegan late in the draft out of Michigan, Dylan McMahon after that out of NC State, and then they signed Matt Hennessy and Max Sharping. Those are two players with pedigree who were drafted in the first couple of rounds in the draft, respectively. Let's round out with this. The Birds, and talking about trench play here, fill in the blank, have the blank best offensive line in the NFL. I think it's going to be top 5, top 10. Number 2 from PFF, maybe a little bit high, but if you disagree with me on that, explain why. Be sure to give me a follow. I'm on X at Chase_Senior, approaching 13,000 followers on X. 30,000 followers and counting on Instagram. Put out a lot of short-form content and covering the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college football, all my social media pages, and you get to stay in the know with what I'm up to.